Good morning, you guys. Thank you for tuning back into Manifesting with Miracle. As always, I pray that this video reaches you in good spirits. I hope all is doing well with you guys. And today's segment is going to be entitled Bound But Not Burned. So I'm just going to come on here really quick just to give you some words of encouragement based on scripture found in Daniel 3. And if you haven't read this for yourself, I encourage you to do so. You may have heard the story, but I encourage you just to read it and get insight for yourself. So basically, in Daniel 3, it's about King Nebuchadnezzar, Shedrach, Meshach, and Abednego. So we know that Nebuchadnezzar is the king, and he's built this like statue of gold, and he wants everyone to bow down and worship this false god, right? So he wants this statue to be the god, and he wants the citizens to fall down and worship. And Cedric, Meshach, and Abednego is like, nah, nah, that's not gonna happen. Like I'm not feeling it. Like I'm only gonna worship one God, and that's the true living God. I'm not bound down to no statue that you made with your hand. And so this made the king angry, right? So the king is like, he has this ego. Just imagine you're king and you have someone like talking back to you or disrespecting your authority or your power. So he's like, when this music falls down, when this music starts up, and everyone else starts to bow down and fall down and worship this statue, if you don't, then you're gonna have to suffer the consequences. So they're like, okay, well, what's the consequences? Because we're not going to do that. So, oh, thank you, God. That's a good one. So basically, he's like, okay, I'm going to throw you into the fiery furnace. And there's like, okay. So he questioned them. He was like, and who is this God that can deliver you from this? And so Cedric, Meshach, and Abednego was like, our God can deliver us. And even if he doesn't, we're still not going to bow down to the statue that you created, to your God. That's your God. That's not our God. So this made the king really furious. And so he got some of the strongest soldiers, told them to tie the guys up, Cedric, Meshach, and Abednego. He's like, hey, tie those guys up and turn up the furnace 7 times hotter than the temperature is normally at. So they're like, okay, cool. So the king is all cocky, like, yeah, okay, you don't want to listen to my orders and you want to obey that God. Let's see if this God is going to save you from the consequences and from this fire. And on the other hand, Cedric, Meshach, and Abednego is humbled, and they have faith and they have trust in God. And they're saying, you know what? My God has the power to deliver. But even if he doesn't, then guess what? It's fine. However God want to do it, it's fine. So, the soldiers are going up with Cedric, Meshach, and Abednego, right? And they're going to the furnace to throw them in. But what happened was the soldiers ended up dying before they can even get in the fire because it was that hot. So they want to be those, how you call those, they call them Uncle Toms. Like, okay, so you want to be an Uncle Tom and listen to this king because he told you to do this, but you're not using your common sense to say, well, hey, you want us to turn this heat up 7 times hotter and you want us to walk up there? Like, what about us? You don't think we gonna get touched by that heat? You don't think, that heat is gonna come on us? Like, but no, y'all want to go ahead, little clowns. Like, go ahead. So what ended up happening was, they died. Mm-hmm. Cedric, Meshach, and Abednego hadn't even made it there yet, and the guys died before the other guys can die, because that's what their plan was, right? So throw them in the furnace so that way they can burn and eventually die. So basically, the guys Cedric, Meshach, and Abednego were still bound, right? They had already tied them up, so they were bound. So what happened is they fell in the fire. And while they were in the fire, King Nebuchadnezzar seen another person in the fire. And he's looking around, he's asking other people, wait, Y'all see that? Like, I see a fourth person in there, but I could have sworn I only ordered 3 to be put in the fire. Like, where did this fourth person come from? And y'all guess who that fourth person was? God. Baby, and let me tell you something. When God shows up, you're untouchable. Like, once God is around you, surrounded by you, like, once you are surrounded by God, like, you're untouchable. God's not gonna let no one. He's like your protector, right? So, like, whatever weapon formed against you, it won't prosper. And didn't God tell us that he would never leave us nor forsake us? So even in the fire, God wasn't like, oh no, that fire is too hot for me, I'm not going in. Wherever you are, God, that is where God can meet you at. That is where he will meet you at. Okay? And they had faith and trust enough to know, like, hey, my God has the power and the authority over your power and authority that you think you have. Yeah, you might be king of this city, but my king is the King of Kings, the Lord of Lords. He's the king of many nations. He's the king of everyone and everything. So your power that you have is not bigger than the power that my God have. Okay? So my God is bigger than this fiery furnace. No matter if you to turn it up 25 degrees hotter. My God has more power than this furnace, than this fire. So when the king seen that there was another in the fire, I guess it freaked him out. And he's like, wait, y'all, like, so he called Shedrach, Meshach, and Abednego out of the fire. So once he called them out, now when they were in the fire, it said that they had on their hats and their clothes and shoes and all of these things, right? And when they came out of the fire, if you throw something in the fire, let's say if you throw some newspaper or just anything in the fire, it's gonna be like melted, it's gonna be like burned, right? It's not gonna be the same texture it was when it went in. They came out, their clothes did not catch on fire, they didn't have burn marks, they didn't smell like smoke. Basically, what they had been, they didn't look like or smell like anything that they had been in. They didn't smell like the fire. So once he called them out of the fire, he asked again, he was like, who is this God that, because at first he was asking like, oh, who is this God that's going to deliver you? He was asking all cocky. But now he was like, wait, who is this God? Like, I want to know this God. And he ordered the people like, hey, from now on, whatever God Shedrach, Meshach, and Abednego serve, that's the God we're going to serve. Forget this statue. We're going to serve this God. And not only that, he promoted them. He promoted Shedrach, Meshach, and Abednego. So I'm here to encourage you today that although you may be bound or you may have been bound in bondage, that God is with you. Whenever, in every circumstance, whatever the circumstance is, if you may have been bound financially, you may have been in debt, God is with you. Invite him in. Okay, you may be in fire in a relationship. You may be in an abusive relationship, so whereas you've been abused physically, mentally, emotionally. I'm trying to think of the other one. Verbally. And you're just like, God, you feel like you're in bondage, like you're indebted into that relationship because you got kids, or because you may feel as though you need him or you need her because you can't make it on your own with paying the bills, or you need them for transportation, or whatever it is, whatever lie the enemy has in your head thinking that you need to be stuck, baby, that is a lie. Okay, you don't have to be in bondage. All you have to do is just call on God, like, God, look, just meet me where I am. Okay, even on a job, you may be in a job and you may feel as though like your supervisor or your manager may feel as though they have all of the power to be like, hey, I can terminate you, I can suspend you, I can control like how much, like when it's time for evaluations, like how much of a raise you get, and they may be holding that over your head and they may think they have all of the power, but you have to have that mindset of, guess what? My God has all of the power. Yeah, you might have a title on this job. You might be the king on this job, the president on this job, the CEO on this job, the manager. But my God, let me tell you, my God is above you. And once I go to my God on him, he's going to come in here with me. And sometimes we expect God to do something and he does it like a totally different way. But his ways are better and his ways are higher than our ways. I'm sure when Cedric, Meshach and Abednego was in there, when it was going into the fire, they was like, even if my God don't deliver us, I'm sure they were hoping like, you know what, God, you gonna make it to it as this furnace is broke today. It's not working today. The fire is not working today. They don't have no more wood to start a fire. But when they were in the fire, they probably was like, well, God, we in this fire. But God was like, that's okay. I'm gonna allow you to get in the fire. I'm gonna allow you to get bound and get thrown into the fire, but I'm not gonna let you burn. So God sometimes allow us to be in situations or in places at a certain time, and we may not understand it, but it's all for his glory. Because look how that king that was so funny, making jokes about what God's going to deliver you, this God. So then he wanted to forget that statue and come on and be like, you know what, God, I want to serve this God, and everybody else is going to serve this God. It was all for God's glory. Okay, so my encouragement to you today is, it's okay if you feel like you're going through the fire. It's okay. It's okay if but you're not burning. You won't be burned. Okay, and the people that the enemy tried to use to put you in that fire, they thought, oh well, shoot, man, we about to put them in the fire, and we gonna sit back and we gonna laugh and we gonna have some jokes and we gonna drink some beers, some wine, whatever, and we gonna look at them burn and we gonna laugh at them. But guess what? It backfired. Jokes on you. So whoever the enemy is using to bring you to that fire, you see how those two soldiers, or however many soldiers, whatever soldiers brought them up there, they died off before they can even enjoy the abuse that they were trying to set upon these people. That's the same way. It's like, oh, God, like, oh, yep, the enemies thought they were going to sit back and laugh at you, at your pain, but no, God's like, I got this one. Like, this is my children. I got them covered. All you have to do is just have the faith in me. So you won't always be in a fire. And everyone who goes through the fire is in there for a different amount of time, But one thing about it, you're going to come out of it. You won't smell like the smoke. You won't have no burn marks, none of that. Okay? You may have been in an abusive relationship, and at one point you could have had a black eye. You could have had some fractured ribs or a broken nose. But look at you today. You don't have not a scar, not nothing. And people are trying to figure out how. How did she come out of this? She should have been dead a long time ago. And it's nobody but God, because God is with you always. God says, I will never leave you nor forsake you. And you were not consumed by the fire. And what was meant to harm you actually helped you. Okay? So I hope this makes sense to you guys. I hope it reaches beyond your ears and it resonates in your spirit. And as always, I pray you guys have a great day. And I'll see you next time. Bye.